Hey guys, welcome back to our FCS Dynasty and NCAA Football 2006. Today we've got our Week 6 recap, Week 7 predictions, taking a look at the nation. This is my third video of the day because of the UC Davis and Northern Colorado game debacle. Still don't know what the problem was with that, but I got it up at 9 this morning. So if you haven't watched that one yet, go back and take a look. And you also just watched North Dakota State take on the Southeastern Lions. That game was crazy, but let's get into this and take a look at the top 25. UTEP takes over the #1 spot, so that means that the Boise State Broncos have been defeated. So UTEP #1, Fresno State, Nevada, Navy, Central Michigan. That is the top 5. And after that, we've got Army, and there's Hawaii, and apparently Hawaii beat Boise State 28-21. Suffering their first loss on the year. That drops them down to 9th. And to round out the top 10 is Florida Atlantic, Boise State, and Wyoming after Hawaii. Then we got Colorado State, San Diego State, Eastern Michigan, Ball State, Akron, who just lost to Central Michigan 35-10. New Mexico State, New Mexico, and the Savannah State Tigers jump up to 18th in the nation. And we haven't really seen any other FCS schools in this top 25 yet, other than William & Mary and Montana, who were both defeated at the hands of our schools for our dynasty. And that is the top 25. Tulane loses to Oklahoma 31-24. That is actually very impressive that they almost beat Oklahoma. But again, there's only one FCS school ranked, and that is the Savannah State Tigers. Bryant does not get ranked. They are ranked 26th after beating ranked William & Mary, who just dropped out from the 24th spot. So William & Mary drops, what, 4 spots? And Bryant does not get ranked for some reason. I don't understand that. They deserve it. But here's the Heisman watch list. MJ Gator Jr. still at the #1 spot because of those insane stats. And then you got Jason Holly. There's not really a whole lot of different players on here. It's really been the same few players. Every once in a while you get a new one jump in, but then they'll fall out and somebody else will take their spot. But James Poole, halfback from New Mexico, is in there. He's got some ridiculous numbers as well. 871 yards, 13 touchdowns. Let's take a look at the players of the week. James Poole, that we just talked about, 263 yards and 5 touchdowns. Goodness gracious. Darius Peters, player of the game on defense for the nation. And Cody Seymour for the ACC, 406 yards, 5 touchdowns for Florida A&M. Sean Lowry, sophomore outside linebacker for the Spartans, 15 tackles, 6 for loss, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. Montana wide receiver Andy Craig had 10 catches, 245 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Wow. Rob Orlandi gets player of the game on defense, or player of the week, actually. 6 tackles, 3 for loss, 2 sacks, 2 picks, forced fumble, and a touchdown. Of course, he had that insane interception off of the receiver's leg. That was against the Illinois State Redbirds. Big 12, Calvin Jasper Jr., player of the week on offense. 313 passing yards, 158 rushing, 6 total touchdowns. Darius Peters, 5 tackles, 1 for loss, 1 sack, 2 picks, 2 forced fumbles, a touchdown. He was balling out against the UT Chattanooga Mocs in that Big 12 game. And for the Ivy League schools here in the Big East, Anthony Temple, senior wide receiver, had 311 yards receiving on 13 catches with 3 touchdowns in their overtime win against Morgan State. Wow, that is insane. Chad Hartman, middle linebacker for Columbia, 19 tackles, 3 for a loss, a bunch of other stats. He had so many stats I didn't have enough time to tell you. Matt Howell for Rice, of course, the dual-threat quarterback, ran for 218 yards. He had 3 touchdown passes as well. Chris Wall, 7 tackles, interception, fumble recovery. Redshirt senior out of Jacksonville State, outside linebacker, and the Gamecocks are 3-1 on the year. Independence, junior quarterback Mike Kent for Navy, had 173 rushing yards, 138 passing, 5 total touchdowns. Titus Taylor, 21 tackles, 3 for loss, and a sack in their loss to Hofstra. That is for the Wofford Terriers, who are 1-4 on the year. Sophomore outside linebacker. Still crazy numbers. That defense must have been on the field the entire game. For the MAC, redshirt junior quarterback Avery Anderson threw 6 touchdown passes against Bethune-Cookman. Brock Lewis, junior outside linebacker for the Chippewas, had 7 tackles, 2 for loss, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles in their win against Akron when they won 35-10. And the Mountain West, James Poole, of course, who had NCAA Player of the Game as well. And Roy Gaines, junior outside linebacker for the Lobos, against Murray State in the 56-24 win, had 4 tackles, 2 for loss, 1 sack, and an interception. For the Pac-10, Owen Gregory, freshman quarterback for the Southern Utah Thunderbirds, had 289 yards passing, 40 rushing, and 5 total touchdowns. Luke Moss, Defensive Player of the Week, in their win against Eastern Washington, where they won 27-7, had 7 tackles, 2 picks, and a fumble recovery. Their defense dominated the Eagles in that game, and that was very surprising to me. The SEC, Vince Steele, redshirt senior quarterback for the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils, had 326 yards passing, 79 rushing, 5 total touchdowns. Courtney Ryan, redshirt sophomore outside linebacker for the Tennessee State Tigers, had 3 tackles and 2 fumble recoveries in their 45-31 victory over Prairie View A&M. And Vince Steele, of course, all those stats came against the Jacksonville Dolphins in that loss. Sunbelt, Jarvis Davis, sophomore halfback for FAU, had 121 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, 55 yards receiving, and a touchdown. Tony Magruder, redshirt junior right end out of Tennessee Martin for the Skyhawks, had 12 tackles, 8 for a loss, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles in their 27-20 victory over Weber State. Deion Myers for Hawaii, redshirt junior wide receiver, had 196 yards receiving with 3 touchdowns. Ryan Doty, redshirt senior outside linebacker for the Idaho Vandals, in their 27-24 victory over Utah State, had 6 tackles, 2 for a loss, 1 sack, and 2 fumble recoveries. Let's take a look at the conference standings for the first time this season. Let's take a look here at the ACC. Bryant and Savannah State, obviously both at the top of that conference, and they are in separate divisions, so this is going to be fun. But after them, it's not really that great. Norfolk State is the 3rd best team here in the ACC. They're 3-1 on the year, and they've only allowed 74 points, but it doesn't look like their offense can get any points on the board either, only scoring 86. Bryant at the top of the ACC Atlantic, and their only competition that they've had so far was William and Mary, who they just beat in an overtime thriller. That was a fantastic game that finished on a Cy Summers big hit. The ACC Coastal, Savannah State, 5-0 on the year, 3-0 in the conference. They are running away with that division as well. The Big Ten, we've only got one school in there. That's the Dayton Flyers. They're 3-2 on the year, 2-0 in the conference. They beat Montana, who was the #1 team in the Big Ten, and they do have the best record still at 4-1. Dayton needs some work on defense, allowing 154 points, excuse me. But the last 6 teams for the Big Ten Conference are pretty bad, so looks like Dayton might run away with that one as well. The Big 12, we've got 3 schools in there, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, and VMI. And the Dakotas are both in the same division, so that'll be fun to watch. And VMI is in a division all by themselves. They are 1-3 on the season. They finally just got their first win, and that was a good game as well, where VMI really just showed out and used all the talent that they had on offense. And Darius Peters, of course, had a heck of a game, getting Player of the Week for the entire country. South Dakota State, they need some help on defense as well. 204 points have been scored on them, but they are putting up a lot of points as well, 219 on the season. And Furman is the leader of the Big 12 North right now. Tennessee Tech leads the Big 12 South. They're actually tied with VMI, even though their overall records are the complete opposite, 3-1 and 1-3. But VMI finally got away from the non-conference games, so it should be a little easier from here on out for them. And there's the Big East, Dartmouth at 2-3. This conference isn't very good. Harvard is 0-4 on the season. Everybody else has at least 1 win, though. Conference USA, Jacksonville State, one of the couple FCS schools in this conference, and they are actually number 3 right now. They're 2-0 in that conference, so that is actually very impressive to me. The Phoenix, winless so far this year. Here's the Independents, Northeastern, the Huskies. They are winless as well at 0-5. Army and Navy, of course, undefeated, and the Wofford Terriers at 1-4. The MAC, which is filled with FBS schools for the most part. Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Ball State, Ohio, Akron, Eastern Michigan, Buffalo. All of these teams are just so good. And UMass in there at 0-4, another winless school right now. Take a look at the Mountain West. Air Force is at the top of that conference. And they actually lost twice. Southern Utah beat them the first time in their own stadium, so I'm not sure who beat them again, but UNLV, FBS school, 0-5 on the season. Remember, South Dakota State beat them up in Las Vegas. So they are really struggling right now. I'm not sure what's going on with them, but they might not even make a bowl game. Now the most interesting conference in the nation right now, the Pac-10. San Diego and Southern Utah at the top right now. San Diego is 2-2, Southern Utah at 3-3, Cal Poly at 3-1, and UC Davis at 3-2. So it's still really early in the season. So conference play really just started for most teams. As you can see, Cal Poly and UC Davis have only played one conference game. And all the way at the bottom here, we have the Northern Colorado Bears. Now, they've allowed a lot of points this season, but they do have some good games. In the Eastern Michigan game, they lost, but that was a shootout. They lost a heartbreaker to the Eagles. So they could be 2-4 right now. But I will try my hardest to get them into the bowl season, guys. But they do have 2 more subscriber versus subscriber games. And here's the SEC. Jacksonville down at 8th right now at 1-3. They just got their first win, and the offense is looking explosive. The defense definitely needs to step it up, though. They almost allowed a huge comeback last week, and that probably would have just broke my heart if that happened in that game, because they had a huge lead. But the SEC West, Jacksonville is 4th right now in that one. So they have a long way to go, but the offense definitely showed a lot of improvement in the last game. The defense really needs to get it together, though. And here's the Sun Belt, FAU 5-0 on the season, and the Jacksonville Dolphins get to play them later on in the year as well. That's their final non-conference game, and that looks like it's going to be a rough one. Texas State, another winless school, 0-6 on the season. They have yet to have a bye week. That's crazy. They need it. Look at that. Fresno State has only allowed 19 points this season in 3 games. That is impressive. But the WAC is mostly FBS schools. Let's take a look at the Week 6 recap, my predictions for it, and what actually happened. So the Bryant Bulldogs traveled to number 24, William and Mary, to take on the Tribe. I thought it was going to be Bryant winning 28-24, and they actually won it 38-31 in overtime. And that was one of the most exciting games that I've played so far in this entire dynasty. There were just so many awesome plays, and it finished in a way that I never thought I'd see an overtime finish, which was with a huge, big hit from Cy Summers to jar the ball loose on 4th down. That was just an awesome game, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And the next game, 22-ranked Savannah State traveled to Yale to take on the Bulldogs. I predicted a 49-14 win for the Tigers, and they did win, but they didn't score as many points as I thought. It was 38-13. That is the lowest point total that they've scored this season. And the next game, Dayton traveled to Illinois State to take on the Redbirds, and they were forced to use their backup quarterback, Jared Martin, and he came in and had a hell of a game. And there might be a quarterback controversy if we have the same exact kind of output as we did in this game, because he was just phenomenal. He was slinging it left and right over the middle. Trent Green was phenomenal, and I was really impressed with how the offense moved the football in that game. Game number 4, Southern Utah traveled to take on the Sacramento State Hornets in a Pac-10 matchup. I had the Hornets losing that one 21-20 to the Thunderbirds, and Southern Utah actually won 38-35, so the score a little higher than I thought it would be, but I like it. Good victory for the Thunderbirds. And our 5th game, Jacksonville traveled to Mississippi Valley State to take on the Delta Devils in an SEC game. I had Jacksonville winning it 24-21, and they put up 50 points and won 50-44, almost allowing a huge comeback there in the 4th quarter. But they snuck out of there with the win, and hopefully they have some momentum going into their next game. Game number 6, the San Diego Toreros traveled to take on the Eastern Washington Eagles in a Pac-10 game, and I had the Eagles actually winning that 35-20 because of how much points their offense put on the board against Northern Colorado. But the San Diego Toreros came out and were firing on all cylinders on offense. Their defense was unstoppable. Like, they were just an impenetrable force, and they played a great game, and they won that one 27-7. I was very impressed with how the defense played in that game. Game number 7, VMI hosted the Chattanooga Mocs in a Big 12 game, and I had VMI winning 24-17, and they actually put up 52 points and won 52-10 over the Mocs, and that was a very impressive win as well. Up until that point, the Keydets had been struggling on offense. They haven't really had any kind of spark, but they did in this game. Game number 8, South Dakota State hosted the McNeese State Cowboys in another Big 12 game. I had the Jackrabbits winning 35-21. They won it 52-24, and they have one of the most explosive offenses I think I've ever played with. They are so fun to play with, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. And Lamar Jackson, Daly Redding, Mason the closer, Smith, and all their targets on offense, Jack Marks, Brahms North, and it's so much fun to play with that team. And game number 9, UC Davis traveled to Northern Colorado in a Pac-10 subscriber versus subscriber game. I had UC Davis winning 31-14, and they actually won it 35-14, so I was extremely close to that prediction. Owen Black, of course, was suspended for the first half, and the Aggies, for some reason, decided to try to throw the football with their backup quarterback, and it wasn't working. And when he came in the third quarter, it automatically gave them a nice spark, and they were able to pull away for the easy win over the Northern Colorado Bears. Game number 10, the Cal Poly Mustangs traveled to Idaho State to take on the Bengals, and I had Cal Poly winning that one 56-21, because I love their offense as well. Alexander Connor is a beast. I love how he throws the football. And they didn't score as many points as I thought, but their defense stepped up a lot better today too, with a 31-8 victory. And our final game of Week 6 was North Dakota State traveling to take on the Southeastern Lions in a Big 12 game. And I actually had the Lions winning this one 24-21, based on the fact that North Dakota State had been struggling offensively. And the Southeastern Lions have a great quarterback with 4 really good receivers. Well, not really good, but 4 decent receivers. So he had a lot of targets to throw to, but that just wasn't the case in this game. And North Dakota State won it 94-24. So that's the second 90-point game we've seen in this dynasty. The first where one of our teams actually does that. Now our Week 7 predictions. Our first game, Week 7, Game 1. Cal Poly traveling to take on the San Diego Toreros in a Pac-10 game. I got Cal Poly winning that one 30-20. I just think their offense is going to be too much for the San Diego defense. I do think it'll be close. I just think Cal Poly is going to pull away in the end for that win. Our second game of Week 7, Western Carolina, the Catamounts, travel to take on the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, and that's a Big 12 game. I got the Jackrabbits winning that one 42-31. I think it'll be a fun game. Jackrabbits, of course, have that explosive offense, and I can't wait for that one. Game number 3, the Jacksonville State Gamecocks travel to the 18th ranked Savannah State Tigers. I got the Tigers winning that one 45-17. Their team is just too dangerous. You can't stop their offense. You can't really do anything against that defense. I think they're just going to be too much for the Gamecocks. Week 7, Game 4, Dayton, the Flyers, they travel to take on Big Ten opponent Eastern Illinois, and I got Dayton winning that one 38-14. And this will be Jared Martin's second consecutive start. And if he performs well in this game, there might be a controversy at the quarterback spot. We know Dorian Wurra is a very good runner, and he can throw the football too, but Jared Martin was very good in his last game. Let's take a look at the last 4 games for Week 8. Game number 5, Jacksonville travels to take on Texas Southern. That's an SEC game, and I got the Dolphins winning another one 42-31. Now, hopefully their defense can step it up a little bit and help out their offense, who was very explosive last week. Game number 6, Portland State Vikings travel to take on the UC Davis Aggies, and I think the Aggies will go away with an easy victory on that one, 38-10. They're just too nasty. Game number 7, VMI travels to take on Big 12 opponent, the Furman Paladins, and I've got VMI winning a close one, 28-20. And our final game of Week 7, the Nichols State Colonels travel to take on the North Dakota State Bison. That is a Big 12 matchup, and I've got the Bison winning that one 35-24. I do not think they're going to be putting up 94 points again, and if they do, I will be completely speechless if that happens. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments section below your thoughts on taking a look at the nation, all of that good stuff, you know, the players of the week around the country, conference standings, Heisman Watch, the top 25, and let me know your predictions for Week 7 and your thoughts on the Week 6 games. But I will see you guys Wednesday with another subscriber versus subscriber game as the Cal Poly Mustangs travel to take on the San Diego Toreros in a Pac-10 showdown. That'll be a fun one. Hopefully the upload actually works on the first try. That would be fantastic, and I won't be ripping any of my hair out again. But that's it for me today, guys. We'll see you guys Monday with some more Houston Texans franchise, and Tuesday with the Mississippi State Bulldogs Dynasty. Almost done with that one. Take it easy, guys.